Ladies and gents, boys and girls, what's going on Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023? Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I see Stephanie Lee, see Youngblood, Ethan, John Ebert, Colton, Carnell, Travi, my guy GA. What's going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel, be sure your questions are answered there. We got a lot to get into, a packed show here on this Tuesday. Of course, in hour number 2, we got my good friend JC Sherbert, who, guys, in case you missed it, will now join us on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays. So really excited to chat with JC from 1:15 till about 1:45 or so. In hour number 3, we will take all of your questions, your comments, and your calls as well. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Be sure to, and we are on the wrong microphone. Here we go. Thank you. Somebody in the Big Cock Club Discord told me what's going on. All right, so we should sound better now. Apparently, Melon, our streaming platform, has gone through some sort of rebrand. They are now TalkStudio.Streamlabs. I don't think they're any longer called Melon. So I logged in today and everything was kind of all sorts of out of whack. I did not realize that the microphone was messed up. So thank you, GA, for telling me that. That would have been bad to go through this entire show with the wrong microphone. It probably sounds a lot different and a lot better now. So again, GA, thank you so much for pointing that out. And guys, if anything else gives you any trouble, technical issues, please let me know. I rely on you guys in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, you all are our producers of this show. But again, technology, great until it isn't, but we're rocking, we're rolling here on this Tuesday, May the 16th. Again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Like I mentioned, hour number 3, our power hour, if you will. That's when we'll take all of your questions, your comments, your calls. So be sure to call the number, text the number, or leave your questions right here in the YouTube chat, or of course in the TDC Questions channel in the Big Cock Club Discord. And we'll take all of those questions in hour number 3. Of course, guys, it is game day. South Carolina taking on Charlotte. I know we got some things happening as we speak. ESPN announcing a few kickoff times right now. LSU, Florida State, Sunday, September the 3rd, 7:30. Texas at Alabama, Saturday, September the 9th, 7 o'clock. So we got some kickoff times. Would imagine we'll start to find out the first couple of games kickoff times over the next week or so. And again, we will talk to JC Sherbert about that because I did see that they were talking about that on Inside the Gamecocks. So we'll see if JC's got any intel, any juicy purse sources on kickoff times and stuff like that. But guys, let's go ahead, dive into everything. First thing I want to discuss, of course, it is game day. South Carolina will take on or host an opponent for their final midweek contest. Believe it or not, it's already the final midweek game of the 2023 season. Gamecocks taking on Charlotte at Founders Park tonight. A 7 o'clock first pitch on SEC Network. Plus, of course, the 49ers of the Conference USA. And these two teams met earlier in the season. You might recall South Carolina only has 2 midweek losses on this season. And the game against Charlotte at Truist Ballpark up in Charlotte, North Carolina, was one of them. Their head coach is Robert Woodard. And you look at Charlotte, 25-25 overall, 14-12 in Conference USA. But the 49ers have lost 8 of their last 11 ball games. And this is a ball club that's been struggling of late, and South Carolina will look to add to those struggles tonight. When you look at the 49ers on the bump and swinging a stick as well, a 4.90 staff ERA for Charlotte. And tonight they will start the lefty, Clark Dearman, who sits with a 2-0 record, 4.74 ERA. They hit 254 on the year, and a couple players to watch for, guys. Cam Fisher, check out these numbers, hitting 320 on the year, 22 home runs, and 48 RBI. So absolutely a slugger, and Fisher, somebody the Gamecocks pitchers will have to watch out for. You then look at Jack Dragum, hitting 285, 7 home runs, 35 RBI. And, of course, Austin Knight hitting 221, but 10 bombs himself. The only other player on this 49ers team that has double-digit homers, 10 home runs, and 33 RBI for Knight. Guys, you look at the South Carolina side of things, of course, Cade Austin getting the ball tonight. And this will be a really, really big start for Cade. More on that in just a second, because as we look at what to watch for our top storylines, right? The final midweek contest for the Yardcocks in the 2023 season, guys. It's crazy how the season flies by. At times, certainly does fly by when you're having fun. The rematch with Charlotte, the first thing you got to start with, I mean, South Carolina, it felt like was pretty much on cruise control a couple of months ago when they took on Charlotte in Charlotte, North Carolina at Truist Field. And that was a tough ball game, right? You might recall Eli Jersenbeck starting that one. Got off to a bit of a rough start. Wasn't his best outing. And unfortunately, we all know the situation right now with Eli Jersenbeck. He will not go the rest of this season and maybe all of next season. But the Gamecocks looking for their revenge. Again, they've had a lot of success. This ball club has had a lot of success in the midweek. Not a whole lot of problems. Obviously, the North Florida game last week was truly a black eye, I think, especially when you think about what's happened recently, and that one just really added to the sting. So this is not just, oh, ho-hum, it's another midweek, right? For a South Carolina ball club that's looking to gain some momentum in the final week of the season, we've all taught what do they need to do to get back into the top 8 conversation or really just feel good about yourself going into the SEC tournament and going into the postseason. I know we all agree this is one you got to have, and of course, there's a little bit of extra added juice, if you will, seeing as it is a rematch of a game you lost just a short time ago. Guys, something else I'm looking forward to, big storyline in this one, the opportunity for a bit of a bounce back for Cade Austin. It's been an interesting season for Cade, right? I mean, looked at, I think, coming into the season as one of your top bullpen guys, and it's just been a mixed bag of results, right? I think the numbers reflect that when you look at the ERA. It's just been a mixed bag, right? He's had his highlights. He's had his high moments. He's also had the LSU game. He's also had what we saw this past weekend where you come into a high-pressure situation and you're not able to keep a game where it is. I think shuffling things up a bit, right? You've got Jersenbeck on the shelf. You know, I think giving Cade Austin the opportunity, bounce back quickly, you know, go up against an opponent that they've got some quality guys. We just talked about them in Fisher, Dragum, Knight, and some others as well. But not a daunting opponent, because Cade Austin, guys, no matter how you feel about him, and I'm speaking to you, Cody Gaskins, in the Big Cock Club Discord, no matter how you feel about him, Cade Gaskins is a big part of this bullpen. He's a big part of this ball club, and he's going to be a big part of this team's success moving forward. They're going to need him. Hey, you might need him to start a game in Hoover. You're certainly going to need him to come out of the bullpen and pitch some very, very big innings late in games. I think it's probably going to be a Johnny Holstaff type of game, guys. But really what this serves as is an opportunity for Cade Austin to sort of just get that confidence back, right? Get that momentum, get that mojo, if you will. And if he can give you 2 to 3 solid innings and just come out of this outing feeling good about himself, I think it could pay off big dividends for South Carolina, because I would bet on it. You will see Cade Austin pitch this weekend as well against the Tennessee Volunteers. And again, you're going to need him beyond that in a postseason play also. Guys, the other big storyline when you look on the offensive side and this lineup as a whole, the return of Will McGillis. Mark Kingston last night on Sports Talk Radio, Sports Talk SC on Twitter, went on radio. I think he goes on there every single Monday night. And he informed Phil Kornblue and the boys that he is expecting Will McGillis to be in the lineup tonight, which will be a huge, and I mean a huge boost for this ball club. Now, I'm not holding my breath, because we had heard things on McGillis. He'll be back by this date. He'll be back by this game. And it has not happened yet. So until I see McGillis's name in that starting lineup, I don't know that I even really believe it, but will be a very, very big deal to get Will McGillis back. Do I expect him to be what he was when he went out right away? I mean, maybe not, because he's just been out for so long and he hasn't seen live in-game pitching. Guys, there is a major difference. But having your infield back together, having Will McGillis back in this lineup, a guy, guys, that when he went out injured, he was 7 for 12 in SEC play. Will McGillis was 7 for 12 in SEC play when he went out with an injury. Getting him back tonight will absolutely be huge. And it's just another good sign that, again, as you get closer to the postseason, you're getting healthy, you're getting closer to having your best 9 on the field. Think about how long it's been. Think about it, how long it's been since South Carolina played a game with their quote-unquote best 9. I mean, think about it. Somebody's been hurt all year long, whether it's been McGillis, Wimmer went out for a bit, LeCroy went out for a bit, Cassis went out for a bit. I mean, it's just Tippett went out for a bit. It's been crazy. The injury bug this team has had to overcome, had to fight. Noah Hall's practically been out all year. Getting Will McGillis back, that is a huge, huge piece for this ball club. And I think it's obviously a huge boost to the lineup as well. Guys, something else I'm looking forward to. Do we see shuffling in the starting 9? And I'm mostly speaking on Ethan Petrie because he's a guy you need to get going, right? I talked about it yesterday that you're just right now, it doesn't feel like you're getting the big knock, the game-changing, momentum-changing knock, if you will, that you got early in the season. I mean, I told you guys in that Sunday game, there was a moment, 2 guys on, 1-0 ball game. Ethan Petrie comes up with 2 outs, and I just thought to myself, early in the season, this is when Ethan Petrie would go yard. This is when Ethan Petrie would blow this game open. This is when Ethan Petrie would give South Carolina all the momentum, and the rest would be history, and that's just not happening right now. So do they move Petrie out of the 3-hole? Hell, do they give him the night off, right? But do they shuffle the lineup up? I think there's a couple of guys that it could benefit, put them in some different situations, just change things up a bit, if you will, and the midweek is obviously the time to tinker. But even if you keep him in there, do you move him out of the 3-hole? Do you take some of the pressure off? That's a lot of pressure for a true freshman to be in that 3-hole. It's something where it can sort of become daunting. I mean, you could see it over the weekend in Petrie's body language, and he was not feeling like himself. There's frustration setting in. I just wonder how this coaching staff, Kingston, Monty Lee, et cetera, how they're able to combat that and put Ethan Petrie in the best possible position to be successful. Finally, guys, what I'm looking forward to, and I mentioned at the top of the show, but a huge week. I mean, there's just no other way to put it, right? I have been someone, excuse me, I think I've been more optimistic than most. And just because I understand the nuances of this game and the way things can change so quickly, right? I mean, if South Carolina, hypothetically, goes 4-0 this week and you go into the SEC tournament, the mood will do a complete 180. It'll be completely different. And that's just the nature of sports and certainly of baseball. One good weekend, one bad weekend, it can completely change the feeling around your ball club. Tonight is the start of a massive week, right? Everything I've said to this point about, hey, stay optimistic, stay positive, it's all good, it kind of all hinges on this week. With all that being said, you need to come home and play your best baseball. 4 games at Founders Park. Tonight, I think, sort of sets the tone, if you will. I'm not saying you got to go out there and win 10-0 or 20-3 or something crazy, but playing sound, fundamental baseball. There should be no excuse tonight not to be fired up. There should be no excuse not to be fired up play. I know sometimes you're kind of going through the motions in a midweek. Oh, it's a midweek. It's not a big-time SEC conference series. We're a big-time SEC team. We don't have to give it our best, give it our all to take on so-and-so. That should absolutely not be the case tonight. This is a huge game. This is a huge opportunity. And by the way, guys, you think about this. Think about the last couple of matchups with Charlotte. Earlier this season, they beat you. Think about how your season ended last year at home. You got smoked at Founders Park. The grand slam that Charlotte hit off of Parker Coyne in that game, I think that ball's still traveling. I think that ball is still going. And Charlotte pounded you at the friendly confines. So I think it's safe to say you owe Charlotte a little bit of a butt cutting. You owe Charlotte something. You know what I mean? So this is a big game. There's no reason not to be fired up, not to be motivated. When you think about what's on the line this week and setting the tone and just how important that is, obviously the big SEC series, final regular season series upcoming against Tennessee, all 3 of those games at home. I think it just starts tonight, though, having something to feel good about, feeling good about yourself going into that big weekend series, because the goal, guys, and I think it's achievable. The goal this week should be to go 4-0. If you're this team, you're in that clubhouse, and I know it is, go 4-0. That should be the thought process moving forward and going into this a huge week, a pivotal week for the Yardcocks. Guys, let's talk my key player of the night, and I mentioned him earlier. It's Ethan Petrie. You got to get Petrie going. Bottom line. We can nitpick here and there and talk about, well, Dylan Brewer's got to do more, Evan Stone's got to do more, or Will Tippett's got to do more. What's the thing that's changed the most within this lineup? What's the thing that's changed the most? It's the production of Ethan Petrie, or the lack thereof. Again, you're not getting those big swings from him anymore. You're not getting those home runs at the rate you once were. And it's hurting this ball club, guys. It's hurting this team. I don't have his splits. I don't have his numbers over the last 2 weeks or so, but they can't be very good. And I'm not trying to put extra added pressure on a young freshman Petrie. But at this point in the season, you're not even really a freshman anymore. Like, you're one of our dudes. You're a dude. You're a stud. You got to play like one. So whatever they got to do tonight to get him out of that funk, get him going. This is a Charlotte pitching staff that, like I mentioned, 4.9 ERA. They've been solid, but certainly it's one that you feel like you can have some offensive success against. And hey, guys, he may not even play. If that's what it takes to get Ethan Petrie sort of out of this slump or out of this funk, if you will, then I'm totally fine with it. I'm totally cool with it. But getting Ethan Petrie turned around, that's why he's my key player of the night, because I think that's just got to be one of your top priorities. If you're Kingston, you're Parker, you're Monty Lee, that's one of your top priorities of this coaching staff and this ball club, is to get Ethan Petrie going, because your offense, it's just not the same without him playing his best. Guys, let's move to my prediction. You probably already saw the graphic on social media, but lock me in. I've got the Gamecocks getting the job done. You get the dub again. I don't expect anything that it's going to be some blowout. I think Charlotte's actually a quality ball club. It might be a little frustrating early, but I think South Carolina will get the job done. I think Will McGillis has a happy return. 7-4. I've got the Gamecocks beating the 49ers. Lock me in, guys. I think, again, South Carolina at home. It's the start of a pivotal week. I think this team attacks tonight the right way. I think it's a bit of a Johnny Holstaff night, which is one of the reasons I think you'll see Charlotte put a couple up there on the board. I think the game up there at Truist, listen, we just don't play well there for whatever reason. I don't know what the issue is, but I think returning home, Founders Park, you've got Charlotte at Founders. I think you'll get the job done. So, again, lock me in. Give me South Carolina 7, Charlotte 4, as the Gamecocks start off a pivotal week in winning fashion. I think it'll be a positive tonight for sure. Again, I think you're going to see a lot of different arms. I think you'll see the lineup sort of get going again. I'm going to predict double-digit hits as well for the Yardcocks. But again, Charlotte, a good team. They've beaten the Gamecocks before. They'll come in tonight, not be intimidated. They'll play good baseball. And you know that Robert Woodard's club will be ready to give the Gamecocks all they want and more. And again, big start for Cade Austin. I think if he can give you 2 or 3 quality innings, get off the schneid, start to feel good again, he is a dude that you're absolutely going to need down the stretch. A big start for him, big return from McGillis, big night for Petrie. A lot of storylines in this midweek, the final midweek of this season, guys. That's why I always say early in the season, hey, enjoy it while it's here, because baseball season, just like all the others, it flies by, and we're in the last week of the regular season before you even know it. So again, lock me in. Gamecocks 7, Charlotte 4. Guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, we're going to continue the conversation. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Marshall Dougie, ho. Marshall Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Appreciate you all tuning in. Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023. Busy show today as we've got my good friend JC Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur joining us in hour number 2. And, of course, hour number 3. All of your questions, comments, calls. Guys, if you want to go ahead and call in, leave a voicemail at that number, 843-790-3377, and we will play it in the third hour, of course. You can wait, or you can text that number, or leave a comment in the YouTube chat. I'll be going back through all of your questions, comments, and, of course, your calls in that third hour. Again, guys, thank you all so much. We're seeing kickoff times being released. College football is just around the corner. And on that note, I want to switch gears a little bit. Could Spencer Rattler realistically win the Heisman this season? Some of you just sat up in your chair. You piqued my interest. Now you have my attention. Indeed, Heisman Trophy odds, or updated Heisman Trophy odds, were released over at VegasInsider.com. The typical suspects at the top of this list: Caleb Williams, Jordan Travis, Michael Penix Jr., Drake May, who the Gamecocks will see in week 1, Bo Nix, Sam Hartman, Jaden Daniels, Quinn Ewers, et cetera, right? Your normal suspects. Then there's Spencer Rattler, right? And those guys' odds sit around plus 500, plus 1,200, plus 1,500, plus 2,000, what have you. Then there's Spencer Rattler, further down the list. And these odds, it depends on what book you go with, guys. FanDuel has Spencer Rattler at plus 6,500 to win the Heisman Trophy. Our friends over at Caesar Sportsbook have him at plus 3,000. Obviously, you want to take the higher odds because your payout would be bigger. And I know it sounds crazy to some, and admittedly, this conversation is sparked by a conversation that I had with my good friend Barrett Sallee of CBS Sports, which you guys will hear that full conversation on the podcast or on these airwaves next week. Really excited for that to drop. Because in his post-spring overreactions, one of his overreactions was Spencer Rattler will win the Heisman Trophy. And, of course, that caught all of our attentions. Now, to be clear, and we mentioned this on the show, it's an overreaction. It's not a prediction. But I dug into the numbers and what Rattler did last year. And if Spencer Rattler's even going to be remotely in the conversation, I just wanted to discuss, what's going to have to happen? What could happen? Because I will say this, Rattler has something that helps him here. If South Carolina can, let's just say, be last year's Tennessee to a degree, if they can be that breakout team, win double-digit games, spring a couple of big upsets, and Rattler's numbers follow suit, it may be a long shot, but there's a chance that you could see Rattler get invited to New York. Look at Caleb Williams' numbers last year, the Heisman Trophy winner. 4,537 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Say what you want, also completed 67% of his passes. Say what you want, he earned that award. Caleb Williams played well enough to win that award. So those are probably the type of numbers that Rattler will have to put up, something near that. Spencer Rattler a season ago, 3,026 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. As we're all familiar, 6 of those 18, think about it, a third of Spencer Rattler's touchdowns came in the Tennessee game. I mean, we all know the story by now. Spencer Rattler's stat line heading in the month of November was, I believe it was 5 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. I mean, it's crazy when you think back just how porous his first 10 or so games were. If you want to throw the Vandy game in there, sure. But the first 10 or so games were abysmal on the offensive side. Now, how much of that do we put on Marcus Satterfield? Does a change at OC help Spencer Rattler? And you have to think that it will. It'd be one thing if we were talking about bad offense 1 year sample size, right? That was a lot of reason why I came into last season still feeling like, you know what, maybe Marcus Satterfield, the problem wasn't Sat, the problem was his quarterback. Well, unfortunately, we found that to not be true, right? Remember what we were talking about last year, guys? Satterfield was driving the beat-up hoopty in 2021 with the misfit toys at QB he was handed. And last year, he traded that in for the Ferrari, a.k.a. Spencer Rattler. Well, that Ferrari got driven into a ditch and driven into a ditch and driven into a ditch until it could barely even run anymore. And we found out very quickly it wasn't the quality of the vehicle to blame. It was the driver. So I'll say this, even with my admitted skepticism at his hiring, some of my questions and doubts of Dowell Loggins, is he actually the guy? I will tell you this. I don't even think it's possible that he could be worse than Marcus Satterfield was, that he could be more incompetent than Marcus Satterfield was. And I have to think, guys, Shane Beamer understands, Shane Beamer can do no wrong right now. But I think he gets how quickly things can change and how, as a head football coach in the SEC, you're not really guaranteed tomorrow. You're certainly not guaranteed next year. Because winning and losing is what talks. You can say whatever you want about, well, Shane does this, he does that, he says this, he loves Carolina, he loves being here. But at the end of the day, if Shane Beamer's here a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, those things are nice, but it'll be because he won. But bottom line, let's not get it twisted. A good culture will not save you from a losing record. It will not. That culture stuff, nobody wants to hear it if you're going 5-7 every year. Nobody wants to hear it. And he understands that. So on that note, though, I have to think that Shane Beamer learned a very, very valuable lesson over the last 2 years of, I've seen what doesn't work. And I'm sure he was able to have very honest and open conversations with Dowell Loggins about that. Hence, why I think Dowell was so forthcoming and checked off all the boxes in his first press conference. We're going to simplify. We're going to go let our athletes make plays. We're not going to have 15-word play calls. He said everything and addressed every concern that we could have. So back to Spencer Rattler. Is it possible? Could Spencer Rattler realistically win the Heisman Trophy this season? I think it's a long shot. I surely will not be predicting it, but it could happen. He's got the talent. He's got the skill set. I think what you saw against Tennessee and Clem Sucks in the final 2 games was that ceiling. Now, last year, we also saw his floor. And again, how much do you put on Satterfield? How much do you put on Spencer Rattler himself? I guess that's up for you to decide. The reality, though, and the fact is this, you need more consistency out of Spencer Rattler. If he's going to have any chance, and that's for this entire Gamecocks offense, by the way. The turnovers were way too high last year. Again, 12 interceptions for Spencer Rattler. Some that weren't his fault. Some drop passes that were picked off that weren't his fault. The entire offense has to be better. South Carolina, I don't have the stat pulled up in front of me. You'll hear this more in detail in our Friday conversation with Pete Futak at collegefootballnews.com. He had in his South Carolina preview just how big of a deal turnover margin was. I think it was, guys, the Gamecocks were 1-4 when they lost the turnover margin and 6-1 when they won the turnover margin. I mean, you could say turnovers is the key to South Carolina's season. It's certainly the key for Spencer Rattler. But what'll have to happen? Number one, I think he's got to eclipse that 4,000-yard pass mark, probably 4,200 at minimum. He's got to get over 30 touchdowns. So he's going to have to set the passing record that Dylan Thompson currently holds. And somebody can fill me in. I forget right now what the number is. I'm going to look it up really quickly. The number in 2014 from Dylan Thompson, he threw for 3,564 yards. So if Spencer Rattler is going to compete to even just go to New York, he's going to have to shatter that number. And I know this might sound crazy, but guys, it's May the 16th, right? We're having these conversations. Vegas odds, Heisman odds are out. He's got a chance. His odds are listed. He has a chance, plus 6,500. I don't know about you all, but I'd love to make 6,500 off a $100 bet. I'd love to do it. Anyways, he'll have to shatter that number. I think 4,200 minimum passing yards. He'll have to go over probably 35 passing touchdowns. He'll have to be single-digit interceptions. So he's going to have to be much, much more consistent and protect the football at a much higher clip. And maybe most importantly, the Heisman Trophy is an individual award, but there's no individual that can win that award without the guys around him. He's going to need help. Juice Wells, got to be a 1,000-yard receiver. That's a given. Xavier Legette, got to have the best year of his South Carolina career. Nicholas Harbor, got to be an immediate impact player. Whoever the hell's playing running back, got to be just productive enough. The offensive line, got to be just good enough to give him time. Probably got to be better than that. Got to be a damn solid unit, top half of the league. Trey Knox, got to live up to the hype and potential. Joshua Simon, same thing. That defense got to take a step forward. Some of these young guys step up, fill voids quickly, and take the next step under Clayton White. And South Carolina's going to have to win, and they're going to have to win big. Bottom line. But there is a path. There is a path, I think, for Spencer Rattler to do this. You got to beat UNC out the gate. That's a given. You take care of that game, you're going to beat Furman. How does a Heisman campaign start? A big win. A big individual performance and a big win. And it feels like a long shot, and it is a long shot. Flat out. This is just fun conversation we're having here. But Spencer Rattler could get his Heisman campaign started in Athens, Georgia. It could happen. He goes out there. I don't even think he has to throw for like 400 yards. You go out there and throw for 270, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and South kind of beats Georgia 31 to whatever. It doesn't matter. They win that game, and all of a sudden the Gamecocks are a game and a half up on the Dogs in the East. You'll be in prime position. He'll be in prime position he'll be right in the thick of that Heisman race early. Navigate through the season. You go 10-2, 11-1, get to the SEC championship game. Don't even have to win it. But if you get that far and it has the feeling of a season where Spencer Rattler puts you on his right shoulder, he could end up in New York. Again, it's a long shot. It's a very much long shot. And it's a long shot because I don't doubt Spencer Rattler's ability. I question his consistency. Which guy will we see more of? I question the pieces around him more than anything. I question the offensive line. I question the receivers outside of Juice Wells. I question Trey Knox. Just how good will he be? I question the running back room. There are a lot of things I question outside of Spencer Rattler that I think could just hold him back just enough to where he will not be able to reach those heights. Because, again, you got to have a great team around you. And you play in the SEC and, you're going to get exposed if you're not solid across the board. Also defensively, I have my worries about defense. I think Jatius Gear, who we're going to talk to JC Sherbert about him in just a second, I think that's a great pickup on the defensive side. And, I could see the defense, I think, being solid. Are they going to take some massive step forward? I don't know that is necessarily the case. I would say, guys, I mean, obviously you want to shore up the run defense, but I think if you're about the same as last year on defense, I consider that probably a victory with the pieces you lost in the secondary. I would probably, in the middle with Zach Pickens, and off the edge with Jordan Burch, I'd probably say that's a win if you're able to sustain the success you had last year. But again, 3,026 yards, 66% completion percentage, 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions a season ago for Spencer Rattler. Those numbers, they got to go up. They got to go way up. The consistency, it's got to be there. Well, Dowell Loggins coming in at OC, will that be the change that Spencer Rattler needs? Will that be enough? Will the addition of Eddie Lewis from Memphis, Trey Knox, Joshua Simon at tight end, Nicholas Harbor as a freshman, maybe Logan Diggs in the backfield, never know. Will that be enough? And you just got to win games. Because as we all know, guys, the Heisman Trophy at this point, it goes to the quarterback of the best team in the country. That's basically who gets the award. The quarterback of the top team in the country, or one of the top teams in the country. We all know at this point it's a quarterback-driven award. And while I think it's a long shot, I think there's a path where Spencer Rattler could realistically at least be in the conversation of New York. And if he does that, I mean, South Carolina is obviously having a historical season, that breakout season in year 3 of Shane Beamer that we're all hoping for. But you feel like that's probably going to happen at some point. You feel like they're going to blow the top off. South Carolina is not going to get the benefit of the doubt till they kick the door down and show the college football world, hey, we're for real. We're here. This isn't just lip service about culture. It's not just, fluffy recruiting rankings, this, that. Like, we are a real force in college football. Spencer Rattler, his Heisman pursuit could be a huge part of that this season. Guys, let's jump into another break. On the other side, we'll keep the convo going. Appreciate you all tuning in here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Marshall Dougie, ho. Macho Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Appreciate you all tuning in Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023, yet again. Really exciting stuff, guys. A lot of news dropping today with potential rumblings of the ACC teams moving out of the ACC. I see you, by the way, DGD. Thank you so much for finding us, by the way. We are no longer streaming on Facebook. To answer your question, if you want to go back last week, I explained why, but DGD, simply put, it just makes a lot of sense. When you think about Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, which is where we were, of all those platforms I just mentioned, YouTube is the only one that you can monetize. So it just makes a lot more sense, DGD, from the business side of things. And it also just simplifies, having the show on 4 different outlets, 4 different entities. It's like, how do you pick which one you tune into? Makes so much more sense to have this show on YouTube. I also think it's the most user-friendly platform for asking questions and things like that. So again, guys, I appreciate you all, of course, rocking and rolling with the punches with everything that we do. With that being said, guys, I just talked about Spencer Rattler and him helping South Carolina break through, right, kick the door down when it comes to college football and what those in college football think of South Carolina nationally. What we're seeing right now with the Vegas over-unders, the totals, the projections, the prognostications, the ESPN FPI, the Kelly Ford ratings. Why do the computers hate South Carolina so much? And why does it feel like, right? There's always this chip on our shoulders of, well, they just hate us. Everybody hates the Gamecocks. Everybody's against us. It's us against the world. Well, why is that? Well, a lot has to do with the not so great history of this program. And I know that nobody likes to talk about, especially those who truly bleed the garnet and black down to their core. Nobody wants to think about it or look at it head on for the most part. But the history is what the history is. South Carolina is historically a 500 program that has only won 10 games or more in a season 4 times. Hell, they've only won 8 games or more, I think like 7 or 8 times. Not that many. Has never truly had any sort of sustained success. Here's the good news. Shane Beamer doesn't give a damn. Shane Beamer is changing the narrative around South Carolina football in this program, and it's why we've talked about this year is so important. Setting a new floor, if you will. You go 8-4 or better, all of a sudden, the narrative starts to shift. Guys, it's why I've said before that if you can go 8-4 or better, if you can average that over the course of a decade, Shane Beamer's the greatest coach in school history. Because not even Steve Spurrier, no coach has sustained that kind of success. I mean, you think about what Spurrier did, 6 wins in year 1, 8 in year 2, 6 in year 3. What did he have? 7 or so. It was around 6 or 7 wins every year until 2009. And then I believe they got to, was it 9 wins? Did they go 9 or maybe 8 wins? Maybe it was 8 wins, something like that. Then 2010 comes. And even that year, we saw something that will probably never happen again. A team win the SEC East that finished with less than double-digit wins, and I think finished with 3 SEC losses. Didn't we go 5-3 in the conference in 2010? Lost to Kentucky, lost to Arkansas, and lost to Auburn. Yeah, 5-3 in league play and won the SEC East. I don't think you'll ever see that happen again. I think you'll have to go 6-2 or better, probably 7-1. So you had 2010, 11, 12, 13, right? 11 win seasons, 3 years in a row, which is, I'll be honest with you guys, I think a level of success. I don't think we'll ever see that happen again. It's not even doubting Shane Beamer. It's just so hard to do. Go 11-1, or excuse me, he went 11-2. Even 11-2 with a bowl win for 3 straight years, it's unprecedented success. But then it quickly fell off, right? 2014 winning 7 games and 2015 just a complete disaster. But the point I want to get to is this: realistic year in, year out expectations for South Carolina football under Shane Beamer. Because I think very highly of this program under Beamer. I think you might even be surprised of how highly I think of it moving forward into the future. There's a reason that we say Beamer ball to the moon. I think South Carolina football can go to the moon and beyond under Shane Beamer. I also think it's going to take time. I think when Beamer was hired, I saw this as it's a minimum 5-year, 6-year plan of letting him build. We're not even really evaluating in regards to, like, is he the guy? Is he not? Until you get to that point. Well, I think right now we feel confident in saying, Shane Beamer's the guy for this program. I think we all feel confident in saying that. I think he's done many things at this point to reinforce that thought. But I always just looked at it as a long-term type of build. Either way, Shane Beamer's fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting against negative history. You're fighting against the naysayers saying it cannot be done, right? Tennessee has naysayers. Florida State has naysayers. Like a lot of these great programs, or a lot of these just programs in general, they've got naysayers. But the one thing they can't say, the one thing you can't say to Tennessee, as much as you may hate them, you can't say they've never been there before. You can't say they never won championships because they've got great history. I mean, I know we've got our Tennessee haters in the Big Cock Club Discord. They love to talk about it. I mean, guys, Tennessee's a top 10 winning program in college football. That's something you can hang your hat on, right? And it's just something that having that doesn't mean everything. Ask Nebraska how much great tradition means. But when you don't have that, you're fighting an uphill battle. With that being said, though, realistic year in, year out expectations. And I don't know that I'm to a point right now where South Carolina football is to a point where I would say we should start applying this right now. But I think Beamer can take this program to great heights. You think about what is happening right now in college football with NIL, with the transfer portal, with the way that it's sped up the process. You know what this is showing, guys? You know what NIL and the portal showing? It's showing who's really a good coach and who ain't. Because guess what? If you're a really good coach and you have adapted to modern times, you can go pick up at a program right now, and it all depends based off the program and the resource and how broken that program is. But you can pick up at a program right now and within 3 years have them winning big. It doesn't take 5, 6 years to build a program anymore, realistically. I think in the trenches it still does. But to at least to start show signs of winning, I mean, look at Tennessee, guys. Look at LSU. Look how quickly they're getting it turned around. Portal's a big help. Beamer embraces that. He embraces NIL. I think South Carolina is in a great position in the NIL space to continue to win in that area. And you have to win in that area to have any chance. You have the recruiting aspect. You've got Beamer's infectious personality. Now, what does it mean? First things first, guys, I don't think Georgia's going anywhere. Texas and Oklahoma, they join the league. You're probably going to one big conference. I don't think pods are going to be a thing. I think it's going to be a 16-team wide open conference. So here's where it gets interesting. I get asked all the time, Chris, is Shane Beamer the coach to lead the Gamecocks to the SEC championship? Is he the coach to lead us to the national championship? Short answer is I don't know. It's tough to say. There's a lot of variables and things that need to break right, because I will say this, to be fair, I don't see Georgia football falling off anytime soon. But to be fair, nobody ever sees the decline coming. Just go ask the folks in the upstate wearing orange and purple. They didn't see it coming, and here it is. What I will say is this, though. What's going to be really interesting as college football continues to change and as the playoff expands, you probably see where I'm going with this. As the playoff expands to 12 teams, I think it's more realistic. And South Carolina's not the only one. I think it's more realistic to think, hey, the Gamecocks, maybe not every year, but every 3 years, realistically could make the playoff. Because, guys, guess what? If you win 10 games in the SEC, you're getting in a 12-team playoff. You are. You're not getting left out. You're one of the best teams in college football. Especially when you think about South Carolina's strength of schedule. You go 10-2, you're getting in. So I think, and I've mentioned this before, moving forward, right? We'll see what happens this year. A lot of different projections, a lot of different predictions. We all know what needs to happen. 8-4 or better is the goal this year to set a new standard, a new floor for South Carolina. But moving forward, let's just say you do that. Let's say you hit 8-4 this year. Let's keep it conservative. Let's say you go 8-4 this year. I really do believe moving forward, I think you've got your quarterback of the future on this roster, Lenore Sellers. I think you're bringing in elite offensive and defensive line talent, which you have to have in this league. I think you're always going to be able to attract skill position players on the outside. Nicholas Harper's in. You're recruiting at a high clip. I realistically think South Carolina, and you got to walk before you can run. Keep this in mind. I don't think it's fair to put on Beamer, all right, hey, Coach, when are we going to win 11 or 12 a year? When are we going to be Georgia? When are we going to be Alabama? When are we going to be LSU? When are we going to be Clemson Sucks? And don't even bring them into the conversation because, guys, being in the ACC, I'm not somebody that likes to sit here and harp on schedule, and it gets old. You play who you play. But if you think being in the ACC didn't help accelerate Clemson's growth as a program, I mean, guys, we've talked about it before. When South Carolina was winning Outback Bowls, they were winning ACC championships. And you could say whatever you want about that conference. Winning conference titles is more impressive than winning the Outback Bowl. A freaking bloomin' onion. Excuse my French. A bloomin' onion. Like it is. It is. It's tougher in the SEC. It most certainly is. With that being said, though, I think South Carolina can be on a year-in, year-out basis under Beamer. I really believe they can build this type of consistency. I think they can win 8 to 9 games per year, which I think would be a fantastic clip. And I'm talking over the course of a decade. And you got to walk before you can run. So once you get to this point, then you can start talking about, well, now what do we have to do to take the next step? To compete with the elites, to be viewed as, dare I say, the LSU of the East. Maybe that's a little bit too aggressive because they just won the SEC West. Maybe the Auburn of the East when Auburn's good. Again, maybe I'm getting a little aggressive, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. I don't think it's fair to think Carolina right now is going to be Georgia or Bama. Everybody wants to be those teams. Not everybody can be Georgia, Bama, or Ohio State. Not everybody can be that. Not everybody can be Michigan. Not everybody can be those teams. But Carolina can be a really, really good 8 or 9 win team per year. And let's say every 3 or 4 years or every 3 years, you win 10 and you get in the playoff. I think that's realistic. I think getting in the playoff will be easier than winning the SEC championship. Bottom line, it's going to be so tough with Texas and OU in the conference. It's going to be so tough to win the SEC. But getting in the playoff, you can make it at 10-2. You can make the playoff at 10-2. And getting in the playoff would be something, I mean, unlike anything South Carolina football has ever accomplished or ever done. You know, it's wild. Shane Beamer may end up accomplishing far more than Steve Spurrier ever did because of the way college football is changing. It's kind of wild when you think about it. But I think very highly of this program under Shane Beamer. I do. I think very, very highly of this program. I think with Beamer's infectious personality, his attention to detail, he's a relentless recruiter, as we all know. And again, there are some variables. You got to hit on Dowell Loggins. That is first and foremost. This Dowell Loggins hire going to go a long way in determining everything I just said. You got to get that right. You have to get that right. Got to get the offensive side right. It's an offensive game. Got to get that right. And I feel like we all agree you've got pieces offensively, not just for this year, but for the future. I mean, I think it's a safe bet. Lenora Sellers is the quarterback of the future. I don't know who on this roster I like more. I think next year, Lenora Sellers is your starting quarterback. I'd be stunned if he isn't, guys, to be totally honest with you. I'd be stunned. That's no disrespect to Tanner Bailey. That's no disrespect to Luke Doty. That's no disrespect to Dante Reno. But Lenora Sellers, that skill set, you don't see that every day. You think about what they're bringing on the offensive line. Again, Nicholas Harbor's coming in. He's going to play on the outside. I don't worry about South Carolina's ability to recruit wide receivers. Justin Stepp, I don't worry about that. You know, the running back position got to be solved. Maybe Dontavius Braswell, the 4-star true freshman, maybe he could be an answer. I know they're in right now with a 2024 running back. They'll recruit that position. They'll find a guy. And then the tight ends, throw it to the tight end more. I mean, we're going to be fine at tight end. Can Dowell Loggins be that guy? You got to get that right. On the defensive side, I think you feel pretty good, honestly. I think you like Clayton White a lot. Sterling Lucas was a nice addition. Travian Robertson, obviously, is going to be a fantastic addition. He's going to recruit extremely well. Torian Gray, probably the best defensive backs coach in the entire country. And then, of course, Pete Limbo, Beamer Ball. I mean, need I say more? So the pieces are there. The pieces are there. And I'm sure there's many other folks that talk about their respective programs the same way that we are, and they're optimistic, and that's what makes SEC football great is, you know, everybody feels good about their program, their coach, what they're doing. You know, the intangibles and the things you can't control, the things you can't predict are, you know, you need South Carolina to get some fortunate breaks. It needs to work out for Carolina. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to phrase it. And I will say this, great players, coaches, and teams make their own luck. You start to run into luck. You know, I think it was Gary Player that said it best. The more I practice, the luckier I get. You know, the harder you work, the more good breaks you run into. So you need that to happen, right? I mean, it's just, you need it to fall your way. It fell your way when Carolina won 11 games 3 years in a row. Fell your way when you won back-to-back national championships in Omaha. It's fallen your way here and there when Dawn Staley's won her championship. Like when you're winning at a high level, things do fall your way, but you're good enough to create those good breaks. But I think all the pieces are there, truly. Like you look at it. To get to the heights that I mentioned, 8 to 9 wins per year, beating the arch rival, what do we want to say? At minimum 3 times every 5 years. Is that too much? Is that too aggressive? Is that too aggressive? What's realistic? That's a whole other conversation. Realistic expectations for the rivalry. We'll say over the course of a decade. Is it realistic over the course of a decade to expect to go 6-4 or better against the Tigers over the course of a decade? You might scoff and say, Chris, that's easy. Look at the history of the rivalry. It hadn't happened a lot. It has not happened a ton. Hardly at all. Hardly at all. I think changing the rivalry, that's something Beamer's doing as well. So anyways, I say all that to say again, Beamer ball to the moon. I'm very high on Shane Beamer, this football program, and the realistic year in, year out expectations. I think it's realistic to expect after this year, you win 8, you set that new floor. 8 to 9 wins per year, I think, is a realistic expectation. As the playoff comes into view, making the playoff once every 3 years, I think that's a realistic expectation. I really do. I really do. From there, you know, winning the SEC, winning the national champion, those are things that they'll sort of take care of themselves, especially, hey, when you're getting in the playoff, well, now you got a chance. Now you got a chance. But I will say, on top of everything I just said, it's a slow build. It's a slow grind. People have got to give Shane Beamer time to work. You got to give him time to operate. It's not going to happen overnight. everybody you talk to, guys, talks about the gap. Not just Carolina, but everybody between Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and everybody else. And especially in the East specifically, because Carolina's got to go through Georgia to get to Atlanta. If you want to talk about getting to the SEC title, there's a massive gap with Georgia and everybody in the East. There's a massive gap. There's a reason why Georgia, way too early spreads come out. They're 24-point favorites of the Gamecocks. It feels disrespectful, but that's how good Georgia is. I mean, you look at the game last year. Blame Marcus Satterfield all you want. That's fair. But that game was a bludgeoning. You got Stetson Bennett taking selfies with the crowd with like 10 minutes to go. So it's going to take time to change those type of results. It's going to take time to get the pieces and the talent you need, mainly up front, to compete with the likes of a Georgia. But I think it's doable. I think it's possible in due time. And I think Shane Beamer is the guy to make it happen. Guys, let's jump into a break. On the other side, we're going to get my good friend JC Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur on the show. Having a blast today, guys. Again, thank you all so much for the continued love and support, for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and jump into that break. On the side, like I mentioned, JC Sherbert, you're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. That's your Dougie, ho.
What is up, guys? We're back Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. In about 2 minutes or so, we're going to have my good friend JC Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. He will join us. In case you missed it, guys, JC going to join us every Tuesday now instead of Thursday. The lineup now looks like this. Mondays, we'll have Mark Rogers of the Voice of College Football. Tuesdays, JC Sherbert. Wednesdays, my good friend JD Piquel of On 3. Thursdays, Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate. And on Fridays, starting June the 2nd, we'll have my good friend Jake Crane of Crane and Company. He will join us every Friday beginning June 2nd. And also, by the way, guys, if y'all go to Twitter, wish Jake Crane well. He's actually getting married this weekend. So congratulations to our good friend, Jake Crane, on that. And in the meantime, guys, the next 2 Fridays, you guys know we'd always have a guest interview on the quote-unquote podcast, if you will, whatever. We always have guest interviews separate from our daily guests. We've got those guest conversations. We'll air those on Friday, the next 2 Fridays. This Friday, I'll air the one Pete Futak of collegefootballnews.com. And next Friday, Barrett Salee of CBS Sports. Also, guys, and I know you'll do this, just hang with us, roll with the punches next week with the SEC baseball tournament. We'll be doing some things, obviously, content-wise. We're not going to live stream into the games. We will in the Big Cock Club Discord, but we're not going to live stream on YouTube. But we'll be covering those games. So, obviously, if there is a game that is at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock or whenever the hell we play, we will make the adjustment with TDC and all that good stuff. So, just be aware that there's a good chance TDC, hopefully we just got a bunch of late games, but there's a good chance that TDC will be affected next week due to the schedule, the SEC tournament schedule kind of being all over the place. So just make sure you guys are aware of that. Anyways, okay. JC Sherbert upcoming in the next couple of minutes. Just got a text from JC. He is jumping in now. So waiting on JC. Really, really good stuff. Said he's got to bounce at 140, which that works perfect for us. We will do that. We'll rock. We'll rock that way. Guys, in the meantime, I would love to hear your feedback. In case you did not check it out, if you want to check out the podcast, the Spurs Up Show, look that up on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, literally wherever you get your podcast. And I would love to hear your feedback. You probably saw yesterday, you just got blitzed with a ton of those mini episodes that I talked about, things that we discussed throughout the show. It's still the Daily Crow. It's still the entire show. It's just broken out into much more digestible and consumable content. I know some people may not like it simply because it's change, and not everybody likes change. Not everybody likes change. So, I'd love to hear your feedback. Obviously, I value you guys' feedback. So if you have anything you want to discuss or let me know, and obviously I know we'll do that in the third hour, and we'll get into all of your questions, your comments, your calls in our third hour. But right now, let's get him in. He's going to be joining us every single Tuesday. He's been our Thursday guest, now sliding to Tuesday. So make sure you mark your calendars every Tuesday. JC Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks, the Big Spur, he joins us. JC, what's going on, my friend? Let me say it again. Thank you so much for being flexible with your schedule. Excited to have you on each and every single Tuesday. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. Tuesdays are a great day for me. I do a lot of, other media on Tuesdays. And so it's kind of like a media day for me. And so this fits just perfect. And quite frankly, it's probably going to be good to talk to you and your audience earlier in the week, where we can do a little more reviewing than previewing, that kind of thing. And so I appreciate the opportunity as always.
Well, on that note, JC, let's go ahead and we'll start with baseball. I feel like normally we save that for last, but let's just start on the baseball note. South Carolina dropping 2 of 3 to the third-ranked, now second-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville over the weekend. Big game tonight, of course, at Founders Park against Charlotte, and a huge week for this ball club. The final week of the regular season, 4 games left at Founders Park. You know, I know right now the mood amongst Gamecock Nation, JC, and I'm sure you guys feel it with your commenters and people that tune into your show. You know, I know the mood's not great right now, but I actually came out of the weekend, JC, feeling encouraged by what I saw. Like, I felt like the Gamecocks got back to playing their style of baseball, you know, up to the standard, if you will. The hitting just wasn't there, but I mean, you were also asking this team to go into a place that Arkansas had lost 1 SEC game all season at Baum-Walker Stadium. Just your overall thoughts on the weekend that was. I know you can't necessarily look at it in a vacuum, but I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit more optimistic than most going in this final week. What say you in regards to the Yardcocks?
Well, I thought that the pitching staff, they got 3 good starts. I mean, that was when you went from Auburn into Kentucky, that was kind of the key to the Kentucky. You got to have better starts from your starters, and that didn't happen at Kentucky. But Eli Jones, 10 strikeouts on Friday. Then Jack Mahoney pitched his best game Saturday. And then I thought Becker was fine on Sunday. I mean, you know, you only give up 4 or 5 runs in a Sunday game in the SEC to the third-ranked team in the country. That's a pretty good start. And Becker seemed to have more command and have his stuff. You know, I thought that, yeah, the bats weren't great. It's a bad time for certain guys to be hitting slumps. You know, thankful for Will Tippett hitting the home run again. You know, that was awesome. But I think the only home run of the weekend, right? But, you know, it's going to take time. I mean, you know, Braylon Wimmer had a pretty big hit, I think in game 2, or maybe it was game 1. He'll get back to up to speed. You know, McGillis is not quite ready because of his forearm. You know, when you bat, you need your forearm, that kind of thing. Lee Croy's just now back in the lineup. You know, Messina's back behind the plate. I thought Gavin Casas probably had one of the better series of everybody. But you can kind of see it coming back together. I've you know, teams get hot and cold. They go hot and cold at the plate. The pitching going in the tank concerned me more than anything against Auburn and Kentucky, Chris, because if you don't have your pitching, and there's no reason not to with the arms they've got, your chances of winning in the postseason diminish quite a bit. And I know everybody wants to score runs, and I know everybody is remembering the 2021 regional against Virginia and ODU. This is a different team than that team. That team, unless Clark or Seitler did something, Chris, you know they just weren't going to score a whole lot. This team this year, different guys. I mentioned Tippett earlier. Different guys stepping up at different times. Braswell's come in and done good things. I mean, even a guy like Jonathan French against North Carolina, or I think Auburn had a clutch hit. So this lineup is much deeper than that team. And if the pitching comes back, you have to feel sort of encouraged, and they did that. Excuse me, in Fayetteville. I think had they gotten swept, you probably wouldn't take much good away from it. But winning that Saturday night game was clutch. I mean, that was a clutch performance, and salvaging that, I think, puts them on a trajectory to be better for this weekend.
You know, I'd say, JC, you know, looking at this ball club, and I agree with everything you said, especially the pitching coming back is a big piece and an encouraging sign, because in the postseason, you're not going to score 10 runs a game. I mean, you need that offense to continue to be productive, but realistically, pitching and great defense is what's going to carry you far and take you to Omaha and eventually, hopefully, win a national championship. For me, you know, getting Ethan Petrie going, you know, I know we maybe you're asking a lot of a true freshman, but also at this point, he's not really a true freshman anymore with all the game experience he's gotten. I just noticed in that weekend, JC, you know, it felt like, especially like in that third game, for example, you know, I think there was a situation, Carolina's up 1-0, and Petrie comes up with 2 guys on 2 outs. And I was like, you know, earlier in the season, this feels like a moment where he would have gone yard and you would have had that momentum shifting, game changing type of swing. You just haven't gotten those lately from him, and it's hurt you. So, I mean, your overall thoughts, I mean, I don't know, nobody really knows, I guess, specifically just what the answer is. That's on Monty Lee Kingston. I'm curious tonight, do they sit him? Do they move him in the lineup? But getting Petrie going, I think obviously has got to be one of the top priorities for this coaching staff moving forward.
Yeah, John Whittle said earlier this week that he thinks Petrie's pressing at the plate a little bit. And excuse my voice, I don't know why it's gone. It's media day, right? And then on the broadcast, and I want to say this about the Arkansas broadcasters. I thought of all the like road game broadcasters around the league, those guys did a hell of a job.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were really good.
If I were just kind of Joe Schmo watching the game, I couldn't tell that they were aligned with Arkansas at all. And they said they had talked to Kingston, and then Kingston has said, Petrie's trying to hit a 5-run home run when he's up at the plate. And that happens sometimes with young players, especially ones that have had success. So I absolutely agree. They need to get him going. And I thought Sunday, Chris, the Gamecocks had their opportunities. I mean, what was it? First and third with nobody out. I think they got to 2 outs, and I think Casas hits a rocket right at their pitcher. I almost thought that defensive play by their pitcher got him going and was able to get him to cruise for the rest of the way. I think that fired them up. But, sometimes that's just luck. That's the way the ball goes. I mean, that's not going to happen every now and then when you're making contact like that. And Petrie did get a hold one. I think that was also Sunday. Landed probably about 3 feet foul down the left field line. Normally when he's doing better, that would straighten out. You know what I'm saying? I think he'll be fine. I think getting back home, getting some other guys around him in the lineup to where mentally he's not sitting there going, all right, it's up to me. It's up to me. It's up to me. You're talking about adding LeCroy back, Wimmer back, hopefully at some point McGillis back. Those are guys that have all come through in clutch situations this year for South Carolina. So, I think Ethan could probably press less and relax a little bit with some of those guys back. And that's a mental thing. And look, I'll say this too. It's just going to take 1 or 2 for him to get out of the slump. I mean, he's a good enough hitter to where, he gets up there, makes contact, hits one over the fence, has an RBI double or whatever, that's going to get him going again. Same thing with anybody else that's struggling at the plate. I've seen this team rebound and, a different guy step up at the plate every night just about the whole year. So I'm not overly concerned about it, but I do feel like if the Gamecocks are going to finish 4-0, which I think would put them back in the conversation for a national seed or make some noise in Hoover, which they normally don't do or whatever, that Ethan Petrie is a key part to that, just like he's been a key to the season the whole year. So I definitely agree with you there. I think tonight's a good start. They owe the Charlotte team one. Charlotte came to town last year late in the year and beat up on a beat-up Gamecock team and looked like they had a lot of fun doing it. And then, lo and behold, beat them up in Truist in Charlotte earlier this year in a midweek game. So the Gamecocks owe this group. I mean, it's time to beat the 49ers. And so maybe they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and get things right.
JC, did John give you guys an update on Cole Messina? And also I saw yesterday he was talking about South Carolina's postseason projection, saying right now they'd still be a regional host. What did he tell you in indications in regards to the importance of this week and sort of where South Carolina sits right now in regards to the postseason picture?
How did he put it? He's like, get out the lemon juice and Gatorade and Pedialyte because it's just a cramp with Messina. So I think Messina just had a cramp.
Fair enough. Okay.
Oh, hey, believe me, man. I was about to jump off the porch when he pulled up. And the game was basically over. I mean,
right.
And you're like, my God, is this happening? Because you know what, Chris? I mean, we have to say, Messina being back behind the plate, all of a sudden the pitchers are back to normal. I mean, that's a big factor there. I would think. Maybe not, but maybe they just all kind of just came together. But I would not feel good if they'd have lost Cole Messina at this stage at all. But yeah, fortunately for the Gamecocks, it's just a cramp.
And then just the postseason projection, JC, did he mention anything in regards to you mentioned 4-0 this week. I think it gets South Carolina back in the top 8 national seed conversation. I'll tell you, JC, I for one was surprised. And I don't let the top 25 in baseball really irk me all that much because it's one of the most meaningless top 25 polls. And I don't say that I like the D1 baseball guys a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We've had them on the airwaves. They do a great job. But man, once the postseason starts, as long as you're hosting a regional or what have you, or hell, it just starts over for everybody. I mean, look at Ole Miss last year. As long as you're in, you got a shot. But I was stunned to see the Gamecocks move as far as they did. It was almost like D1 baseball waited until the Arkansas series to punish the Gamecocks for what happened against Kentucky and Auburn. Because that's when the big drop came. Because there's no shame in losing 2 of 3 at Arkansas, third-ranked team in the country. I get moving them down a lot after a sweep at Kentucky, but it seemed like they waited to do that. But anyways, I agree with you. A 4-0 week, make some noise in Hoover. I think you're right back in the combo top 8 national seed. Did John Whittle also echo that, or what did he have to say about the postseason predictions?
Yeah, he thinks, he was laying out scenarios too. Let's say Carolina sweeps Tennessee. Let's say Vanderbilt sweeps Florida. And then I'm sorry. Vanderbilt's not playing Florida. They played Florida last weekend. Somebody's got to sweep Florida or win 2 of 3 against Florida. And I think they're playing somebody good. Arkansas plays at Vanderbilt, though. So if then South Carolina can still win the SEC East. I mean, it's that, crazier things have happened over the course of this season. It's kind of like the announcers for Arkansas said the other day. Dave Van Horn said, this league is nuts and my hair's falling out. So that's the Arkansas coach. Has been a coach for about 25, 30 years. I mean, it's that crazy. But right now, I don't think South Carolina can afford to go 0-4 this week and feel good about hosting a regional. I do think they will, with 15 wins in the league, that usually means you're in a regional. You may end up being a 2 seed somewhere because that would mean the bottom is really falling out, especially with the 2 in barbecue and Hoover. That would really mean the floodgates had opened, so to speak. I think if Carolina goes 3-1 this weekend, there's probably some sort of magic number in Hoover they have to get to be a top 8. I think they'll wrap up a regional host. But I don't know what that number is. I think a lot depends on how these other teams do. I mean, you got the more Florida wins and with the way the polls work, Chris, it seems like they punished South Carolina because Tennessee swept Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
And so if the better Florida does, I think the Gamecocks have that sweep sitting there, probably the better the Gamecocks chances are. But the committee looks at things a lot differently than the pollsters do. It's RPI and all that stuff's factored in and all that.
Yeah, huge weekend, JC, upcoming at Founders Park with Tennessee coming to town. Vols, they've been a much, much different team on the road, 2-11 away from Lindsey Nelson Stadium. So South Carolina, I think, has a lot of reasons, I'll say, to feel really good about this weekend. But like you mentioned, a pivotal week upcoming. JC, some news that just dropped, and it brings me to, because I wanted to ask you, obviously, get an update on Logan Diggs. He seems to be the talk of the town, just took his LSU visit. Breaking news here, NC State running back Demi Sumo Kargambe, I think that's how you say his name, he has announced his commitment to Kentucky. So he is headed to play for Mark Stoops and company. Logan Diggs, it sounds like, may be favoring LSU. I didn't realize this, JC, until a couple of days ago, that he grew up 75 miles away from Baton Rouge. And normally those guys, I mean, he left once, but normally those guys, they don't leave. LSU gets them if they want them. So what is I guess I ask you this, what's the overall outlook of the running back position right now for South Carolina? Because, again, the NC State back going to Kentucky, Diggs, it sounds like, is going to go to LSU. I mean, where do they sit right now in regards to the running back position?
He's Devin Leary, who was his quarterback at NC State's at Kentucky. That's the connection there. In my conversations about sumo shark or whatever they call him, kind of like Sharky or something like that, I did not get the sense. Now, I was not flat out told this, but I did not get the sense that he was necessarily if Diggs does, if no Diggs, then this guy. Mm-hmm. He did visit last weekend. There has been talk that the Gamecocks maybe slowed down a little bit on him. I'm not saying that's for sure the case because, all's fair in love, war, and recruiting, right? You never know what the spin may be, but I just like, all of my conversations have been about running back position about Logan Diggs. And then I was told earlier today by a good contact that, what if they don't get Diggs? Well, there's a lot of other running backs out there, like What Me Worry from Mad Magazine, back in the day. And so I guess that, they have a plan, and I don't know. I don't have any names right now. There are a lot of backs in the portal. I think you really do need to get one for depth purposes. I think you want to carry at least 5 because, Chris, I was trying to think of the last season at South Carolina. You've had a year where the running back position has like escaped injury free. I think you may have to go back to like 2009 when Kenny Miles led the way. Because when you think about it, Marcus missed the Kentucky game second half in 2010 and then sat out the next game. He got injured in 2011. 2012, they were down to Kenny Miles again at the end of the year. I think 2013, Davis and Wilds stayed pretty healthy. 2014, Wilds got hurt. I mean, it just – in the entire Muschamp era, it was like musical chairs at that position. So, and same thing with Beamer. His first couple of years, Kevin Harris was hurt, White was hurt, Lloyd was hurt. So I think in this league, you have to have depth there. If you don't block anybody, you're probably not going to go very far, no matter how good you are at running back anyway. But I do think that if Diggs goes to LSU and then with this Kentucky situation, that you just got to go get somebody and hope it works out. And I was talking to Hale McGranahan earlier today. I said, here's what's going to happen. I was like, Logan Diggs is going to get buried on the depth chart at LSU, rush for 200 yards. The kid at Kentucky's not going to get very many carries. South Carolina's going to sign some guy from FCS that rushes for 1,000 yards. I know that's a Pollyanna thought right now, but man, I've seen stuff like that happen so many times. We all remember the linebacker Matt Rowland from Virginia, right? And just the angst and consternation when Muschamp flipped him to Florida. Boy, people were just it was a meltdown city. Well, the Gamecocks ended up replacing him with a guy named Sky Moore, who was really, really good. Same thing with Mark Bridges a little bit when he went to Clemson. Carolina lost Jair Alexander that cycle too. That ended up being the big loss, but Rashad Fenton, arguably had a better career than Bridges did. So who flipped to Clemson. So you just never know. But I think that outwardly there's probably a lot more concern than there is internally right now about the running back position. I'll say this though as a stopgap, so it doesn't sound Pollyanna-ish here because I'm not trying to get there. South Carolina has to sign 3 good running backs in this class. I mean, enough of this. They got to restock that position. You never know when one of these guys is going to leave. So your Daniel Hills, Peyton Lewis's, Anthony Carey's, the kid they offered that J-Bo Shaw's coaching down in Georgia recently. Those guys are priorities. And I think they have to get even more, like 3 or 2 high schools on a portal or something in this 2024 class, Chris, because, not only, there's not much in the pipeline. There's Dontavius Braswell, but that's about it. This position's been sort of gutted. I think they can, put it together with bubble gum and masking tape and stuff this year. But down the road, South Carolina really needs to get better at recruiting running backs, and that needs to happen pronto.
JC, I know you're short on time, so we'll let you go. But last thing before I let you out of here, and I don't know. I kind of laugh at myself for bringing this up. But I feel like every other day when I log on social media, I see some new thing about, hey, man, did you hear that Jordan Birch is going to finish up and graduate this summer and transfer back to Carolina? Is there anything to this? Is this just people being silly on social media, or is there actual traction here? Because I feel like every other day I'm seeing this stuff.
Here's what I've said, and I'm glad you took that post off my board and addressed it, because it's the most
To
ludicrous.
To be fair, Message Board Genius is the one that posted it.
They did. Yeah, I didn't remember.
Yes, I was like, they posted it. I didn't.
Okay, that's what happened.
I was quote tweeting them. I just want to. Yeah,
I am so glad, but I'm so glad people put that out because it said Jordan Birch got $200,000 a sack from Oregon. Look, I don't care how much money Phil Knight has. That's not happening. That's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. Even if he may have been told that, that's one of those NIL deals. It's like, we'll pay you later or something. So I can't say that these are just rumors. Okay, based on what I know, the Jordan Birch thing, I can't say it's just a rumor. There's smoke there. Now, what's the outcome going to be? I don't know because it's a unique situation. The NCAA, they can't put their foot down about much these days, but what I think they've decided to do is we're just going to stand on the table and yell and stomp our feet on second-time transfers. This wouldn't necessarily be something, though, if you can, appeal it in a certain manner where you got a kid going from school to school to school, like grass is greener here. They want to avoid guys going, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go to TCU and get it. Oh, well, Texas now wants me, so I'm going to go here. This would be a kid coming back home, and that's a long way from home. And certainly, there's a lot of avenues I think you could explore there if you're Jordan and his family. Now, I'm not sure where that is in the process or even if there is a process because I have a good friend out at Oregon, and every time I chat with him, he's like, everybody here thinks Jordan's just fine. So, but I know enough about the situation to say it's not something that you should just completely dismiss as a rumor. I would still call it, unlikely, but I don't want to sit there and, sometimes when people start crazy rumors, you kind of like, you bite back on, come on, quiet, stop. I'm tired of dealing with this. I can't say that about this situation. I do think there's at least been some chatter, from credible people about it.
Wouldn't that be something? JC Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur, again, joining us every single Tuesday. JC, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Enjoyed it, bud. Talk to you soon.
Amen. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you. JC Sherbert, electric stuff as always. Guys, with that being said, hey, we're going to jump into a quick break, but on the other side, we're going to go ahead, open up the phone lines and get into our Power Hour, our Q&A Power Hour. Get to your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. Here on the other side, you're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Appreciate you all tuning in. Great conversation, great stuff with JC Sherbert. Thank you so much to him, as always, again, for taking the time. One of our fantastic guests we have on TDC. Really, really good stuff. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you. If you missed anything and you want to go back and hear the full conversation at 5 o'clock Eastern, which, by the way, is when we are dropping the podcast version of this show, the podcast clips, if you will, to get our afternoon commuters, all that good stuff. But if you want to go back, 5 o'clock Eastern is when it will drop. Just look up the Spurs Up Show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts, and you can get all of that there. Guys, going to go back into your listener questions, your comments, and, of course, phone lines are now wide open. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Getting into your questions, Matthew Caldwell earlier asked, just tuning in, not sure if you talked about it. I love the new segment pieces of TDC on the podcast. One comment, are you able to control when the Blue Wire ads pop up? They always cut you off mid-sentence or topic. Yeah, Matthew, I mean, it's just kind of tough because we've got to get those ads in there. And so it's tough to pick like the perfect stopping point, if you will. But I will try to do better about that and make it where it's more of a seamless transition. Gamecock Fanatic. Fun fact, Tennessee is 2-11 on the road this year. Need to win at least 2. Indeed. Yeah, got to win at least 2. Definitely want to go for the sweep. Brian Dean, we also need to get Wimmer going. I agree. Panic Critter says, don't pitch Dylan SQ. Brian Dean's got 9-3 Gamecocks tonight. Love to see that. Ethan, here's a good question. Does Braswell stay in the lineup when McGillis comes back? I mean, I think you think about it, Ethan, realistically. I think Michael Braswell, yet again, is going to be the odd man out. With that being said, though, I think you're going to see him continue to be a big part of this ball club. I don't think just all of a sudden he's going to disappear to the bench and not play anymore. So I would fully expect Michael Braswell to still play, but I do think he'll be forced out of the starting lineup because of the return of Will McGillis. Question for Will Hall. Can't wait to see a full infield staff back in the game. Really curious what we'll do with Braswell if we're playing LeCroy, Wimmer, McGillis, and Cassis in. Let's jump to the phone lines for our first call today.
Justin.
Justin, what's going on? How are you?
Doing good. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Appreciate you asking. What's up?
Hey, Chris, I got some good news and bad news. You want to hear the bad news?
Yeah, give me the bad news first.
Bad news is, Chris, the AC is drying out, man.
The ACC is what now?
Everybody about to leave the ACC soon. 7 minutes what's out of the ACC, Chris.
Is that bad news? I mean, I don't really care if the ACC completely disbands as a whole. I mean, I think we're going towards, I've just fully embraced, we're going towards like the 2 or 3 mega conferences. And I think the ACC is going to be one that is going to feel the effects. So, I mean, I guess it's bad news for fans of the ACC, but how many of those fans really exist?
Yeah, that's it. And Chris, good news is the Big 10 will stick around for longer.
The Big 10's going to stick around. Okay, yeah. It's probably going to. Yeah, it's probably going to be the SEC, the Big 10, and maybe one other conference. I mean, that's probably what you're going to see.
The Big 12.
The Big 12, yes, the Big 12. Yeah, I think you'll see the Pac-12 and the ACC will dissolve at some point.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, the thing about this is, hey, Chris, who you want to take in the SEC that got 2 more teams to the mix?
Well, I think this is an interesting conversation and one I'm glad you asked. I'm glad we're having because I would be open to seeing Clemson join the SEC. I'd be open to it. I think the big reason Gamecock fans scoff at it is because it's like that one thing we have above them, or it's just something we have on them that they don't have. But I mean, I look at it this way, man. You play them every year anyways. you play them every year anyways. It might as well mean even more, right? So, I mean, I think it's inevitable. Yeah. I think Clemson's going to join the SEC. I think Virginia Tech could be a good fit. I think NC State could be a good fit. I think Florida State could be a good fit. So it'll be interesting to see which of those, which of those do indeed join.
Oh yeah, and Chris, and think about Crystal, I mean, that could get a lot of attention, you know that, because you can make the money a lot. If you play Florida State, Florida, that always gonna be a good rivalry, right, Chris?
That's always going to be a good rivalry, yes.
Yeah, and Chris, think about Miami too. You can play Miami too, because people will go see Florida State Miami, right, Chris?
Right. Yeah, no, they definitely will. Absolutely. Another great rivalry.
Yeah, because, and Chris, if you go to, and Chris, what game you want to go see if you go to one day?
What rivalry game would I like to see that's like on my bucket list? I think seeing Florida, Georgia, and Jacksonville would be really cool. You know, obviously the Iron Bowl, the game, Ohio State, Michigan. You know, there's the Egg Bowl would be a lot of fun. That one's as hostile, if not even more hostile, than Carolina Clemson. So there's a lot of them out there. I mean, there's a lot of great ones out there, man. I would love to take in, if you will.
Yeah, and Chris, that's my bucket list too, my brother. I like to see Georgia Florida play too, you know, because I ain't never been to see Georgia Florida play, you know, in person, you know.
Yeah, one of the few yearly neutral site games that is left. So.
Yeah, and Chris, and also I want to see Texas Oklahoma too, you know.
Oh yeah, that's a good one also at the Texas State Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And Chris, I know we all know we get to all of them, but we like to get to one before we say, okay, we got that. It was fun, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yep. Well, Chris, that's all I say, man.
Justin, I appreciate the call, my friend. Always a pleasure.
All right, go Gamecocks.
Yes, sir. Go Gamecocks. Thank you so much. Great stuff from our friend Justin. Always a pleasure to hear from him. And yeah, guys, that is the big news today, I guess, in college football, the ACC, which I will say this, and I'll give him credit when he jumps on, but I'll give Mark Ryan a lot of credit because he got destroyed for this a couple of years ago when he reported that, you know, these changes were coming or whatever. And I don't know, man. I think there's just so much ego in reporting and per sources. And I had it first. You didn't have it first, whatever. And I don't dive into that. So anyways, you know, Mark talked about this a couple of years ago and now it's happening. The ACC is, you know, at their ends. I mean, that's what it looks like at least. So it looks like the ACC is at their ends. And I think you can see a scenario where a couple of those for sure join the SEC. I know there's a lot of Gamecocks out there, again, that do not want to see that happen, to see the Tigers join the SEC. I don't mind it. Whatever, man. Bring it on is what I say. Bring it on. You got to play them every year anyways. What difference does it make? You got to play them every year anyways. So let's see. Brewer Nation and John Edward going back. We love that. John Edward creates rivals with everyone, it seems. I love you, John Edward, but you always getting into it in the comments, John Edward. Always getting into it. Again, guys, 843-790-3377. Fire away. Hey, this is your hour. Questions, comments, calls. Fire away. This is your hour. Whatever you guys want to discuss. Travi says, is this for certain? Nothing on ESPN about it. Well, Travi, it's all over Twitter. It's all over Twitter. So I don't know if if ESPN is going to throw it up on their headlines, but I mean, literally our good friend Brad Crawford, they're talking about it. 24/7 Sports, everybody's talking, Brett McMurphy, everybody's talking about it. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Octavian.
Octavian, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Let's got one question, man. How the Gamecocks is gonna do this year, and if the Gators fire Billy Napier, who we gonna get?
You said how the Gamecocks going to do this year, and then Billy Napier and the Gators. What now?
I said, who do we get if we fire Billy Napier?
Got you. So yeah, it's crazy to think, man, that Billy Napier may not do enough to keep his job. I'll say this: I'd be surprised. I don't know. I'd be somewhat surprised if Billy Napier gets fired after 2 years. I think he's a good coach. I know Gamecock fans love to give Napier hell and give Florida hell. I think Billy Napier, if he gets time, can win at Florida. And if it doesn't work out at Florida, like I think Billy Napier will work out somewhere else. I don't know who Florida would go get. I would imagine they'd try to go after a more well-known, established head coach versus rolling the dice on a young, unproven guy like Napier basically is. He was a hot commodity in the coaching circles, but not a proven national title winning coach. How are the Gamecocks going to do this year, man? I'm not ready to lock in my game-by-game predictions or anything. That'll come early July. That's when I typically do that. But I think, I see South Carolina. I see the Gamecocks in the I'll keep it very wide open, 6 to 9 win range, somewhere in there. I think 6 being the floor, 9 probably being the ceiling for this team. But again, I'm not ready to lock in predictions, if you will. So
I can see y'all beating Georgia this year in Athens. That's my upset game of the year. Y'all beating Georgia. What is the third weekend or the fourth weekend of the season?
That is the third weekend. Yep, week 3.
The third weekend, I see y'all going to Athens, beating Georgia. I don't see y'all beating Tennessee, but I can see y'all beating this. But if Billy has a bad year, man, I really want Lane Kiffin, man. I think we need a head coach like Kiffin, an offensive-minded coach. Like the last couple coaches that we had just been, like they'll start off good, and then I just don't know what happened, what's going on at the end.
Lane Kiffin to Gainesville. That would turn some heads, my friend. That would turn some heads. And I love Lane Kiffin. I think it'd be a great hire if they could do it. Much easier said than done, but I mean, it'd be a great hire for sure. It'd be a great hire. But so you got South Carolina over Georgia week 3, man. That would be the shocker of the season. And I will tell you, I think that game in Neyland against Tennessee, I think that's a huge one. I think that's a game you could argue is South Carolina's key game of the year. You could argue it's one of the most important games of the season.
I think the key game for South Carolina is the Florida game. If they beat the Gators, the momentum is going to go. It's going to go. If they lose that game, it depends on how the team performs.
Well, I definitely look at the Florida game, and again, I'll drop in July when I give my predictions. I'll talk my most important game of the season. So I don't necessarily want to spoil it, but I mean, I think that Florida game, to your point, it is the must-win game for South Carolina, especially after last year, the embarrassing 38-6 loss. I don't see you having a good season if you don't beat Florida. If you cannot take advantage of a down Florida under Billy Napier on your home field coming off of a bye week. You know what I mean? So definitely a must-win for South Carolina if they want to have a successful season this year.
All right, my man. That's good talking to you, man. Go Gators, man. I hope the Gamecocks do good this year, man. As always, man. I root for y'all against Georgia. I root for y'all except for when we play y'all. So I hope y'all do good, man.
Hey, I appreciate the love, Octavian, and call in anytime, my friend. It's always great to talk ball.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Yes, sir. Take care. Appreciate you, Octavian. Good stuff. And guys, let me say this. I saw Lynn Turner comment about the phone lines, if you will. Sound on the calls is highly muffled. Yeah, guys, make sure you're talking into your speaker because, Lynn, it's not me. It is the people calling in. That's not on our end. That's all I'm saying. So let's jump back to the phone lines, guys. Here we go.
Call from
Dalton.
Dalton, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Can you hear me, man?
I can hear you loud and clear. What's up?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I just wanted to call in and talk about sort of the rest of the baseball season. I know losing 2 out of 3 to Arkansas this weekend sucked. We did get some really good pitching performances out of Eli Jones and Matthew Becker, and I feel like, I'm relatively confident in the rotation moving forward. But my question to you is sort of, what do you think this baseball team has to do to get back into the conversation to host the Super, become a top 8 national seed? And, what do you see as sort of a successful season going into the postseason this year?
Well, I'm pulling up
What do we have to do in order?
Yeah. So I'm pulling up right now the schedule for this weekend and the top 25, because I think South Carolina. First thing, what's in your control and what's not in your control. The Gamecocks need to go at minimum 3-1, right? At minimum. Okay, that's a start. 4-0 would be preferred. At minimum 3-1. And you look at the top 25, who's ahead of you right now. Clem Sucks takes on North Carolina this weekend. You prefer the Tar Heels to take 2 out of 3 because they're at 7. Coastal Carolina, I don't know who they play. You prefer them to lose 2 out of 3. You got LSU, Florida, Arkansas, all in the top 8. Florida goes on the road, I believe. Yep, to Kentucky. If Kentucky could take 2 of 3 or sweep, that'd be big. Arkansas takes on, let's see, where are they at? Vanderbilt. They're at Vanderbilt. That's a big one. So if Vandy could take 2 of 3, because Vandy's also fighting for that top 8 national seed. LSU is at Georgia. Tigers are probably going to take 2 out of 3, but you never know. That Georgia team seems to be bipolar, it seems. So what you can control, Dalton, I'll say this. Go at minimum 3-1 this week. You got to win a couple in Hoover, I think. I think you got to win a couple in Hoover. I think you're just going to need to boost your resume because you were dropped so far, and, your RPI is going to help you. But, you're at 13, right, based off the top 25. So I think it's possible. I think it's doable. I'll tell you this. If you go 3-1, let's say you win 2 games in Hoover, which would be really good for South Carolina baseball based off your history there. If you can do that and you're still not a top 8 national seed, it is what it is. I don't think anybody came in the season saying if you're not a top 8 national seed, the season's a failure. But to your point, I said it before the season. Super regionals are bust. And you could still host a Super, Dalton, without being a top 8 national seed. You just got to hope the team on the other side that you're playing, the number 1 seed or whatever doesn't come out of that, or the higher ranked seed doesn't come out of that. Either way, though, you get the Supers. I still think you had a successful season. I know that's tough to stomach because at one point this team was ranked 3rd in the country. And this team has real Omaha potential. But I'm still at this moment going to say you get to the Supers. I don't think you can label this season a failure. I think that's way too aggressive, especially, too. This team still fought adversity, battled injuries. If you get to the Supers this season, in my opinion, is still a success. I know we all want Omaha, but I'd still label it a success under those achievements, if you will.
So my next question is, obviously hitters go through slumps. It's part of the game of baseball. But if we go into the regionals, because, our lineup is relatively healthy, right? We have a couple players, regular players at the beginning of the season that aren't in the lineup, but we have Cole Messina behind the plate, Ethan Petrie, Gavin Cassis. All of those guys are healthy. The top of our lineup is playing and healthy. Michael Braswell, who has come through big in the middle of the order a lot this season. What do you think that we have to do to start consistently producing more runs like we were at the beginning of the season? Because, while having a one or, giving up less than 4 runs in college baseball is a really good outing for a starting pitcher, sometimes you've got to score more in order to win. So I'm wondering what we need to do to sort of get back our lineup, if you will, like stop slumping at the plate.
Well, I think you need to get Ethan Petrie going. That's number 1. He's a big part of your lineup and a huge part of your success. As simple as it sounds, Dalton, you just need your guys to execute and get hot again. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know there's anything like mechanically I see or anything like that we need to do this specifically, but you just need to get back to playing your brand of baseball. I think returning home, I think that's going to help. I think it's absolutely going to help. But again, like I mentioned, you just got to hope that hot streak, that upswing is on the other side of this. And it starts tonight and it starts this weekend. And, I don't know if there's one thing specifically mechanically. I will say this, early in the season, I felt like you saw us getting on a ton with the hit by pitches and the walks and taking advantage of that. I don't know that we've seen that as much lately. I don't feel like we're pitchers aren't helping us out as much, right? And generally, that's what happens when you play better competition. These teams that get to the postseason that are teams, you're not an Arkansas. You're not a team like Arkansas and that good and ranked second in the country because your pitchers are allowing a bunch of free passes and hitting guys. Like, they're very efficient. They execute. So it's going to get tougher. There's going to be an even more premium on, right now I'd say the big thing, Dalton, is, runners in scoring position, hitting with runners in scoring position. I mean, that's always been the focus, the emphasis early on in the season. Maybe South Carolina was a little bit better with 2 outs, 2 out hitting, runners in scoring position hitting, if you will. So, I mean, just getting back to those things is key. And I mean, I don't say like, well, they need to do this. Like there's just one thing or they need to make some drastic change. Just need to get back to playing our brand of baseball. And I mean, you've got the guys. You're also, you're healthy again or you're getting healthy again. McGillis returning, LeCroy back, Wimmer back is huge. And like I mentioned, you just hope that returning home and this week you'll start to see this offense get back to what we're accustomed to seeing.
Well, what do you think about the bunting? Because it seems like every single time we try and bunt, we're giving away a free out. So yeah. I'm wondering, in your opinion, why you think Mark Kingston is telling our guys to bunt? Does he just think that they can't hit, or because they can't execute a bunt either? So, I mean, either way, you're giving away an out. So I just don't understand it. It's frustrating, whenever we get runners on that we're not trying to at least swing the bat, and instead we're just, bunting pop-ups into the air and giving away outs with no, advantage at all.
Yeah, and I know it's frustrating, Dalton, to watch. It's very frustrating to watch. Guys just, you feel like it's so simple. And I mean, I'll give credit, right? Like bunting a 95-mile-an-hour fastball is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not. But at the same time, you're on scholarship to play baseball at the University of South Carolina. If they ask you to lay down a bunt, you should be able to do it. Bunting is a bit of a lost art form. Teams don't really do it anymore. Some of the analytics don't even support bunting, right? That it really doesn't help you all that much to begin with. So I'd say this. I think you got to I think there's a time and a place for the bunt. I really do. It's just all about knowing your guys and pick and choosing your spots. And is it worth the risk? Is it not? Because you're right. When you got nobody out and you got a guy on and, the bunt can really help you, but it doesn't just feel like that, when you can't execute that bunt, you pop it up in the air and you get that out. I mean, it's just such a defeating feeling, and it feels like it just like sucks out all the momentum you just had, right? So that's a coaching thing. I mean, it's just what do coaches prefer? I probably would not bunt quite as much. I mean, I feel like these guys have shown you like bunting is not their forte. It's I don't know how much they do it in practice. I can't imagine it's one of those things they stress a ton. So I would not bunt, but there's going to be a point, Dalton, in the postseason where you're going to need to bunt. You're going to need to bunt, right? So I don't know, man. I agree with you though. It's frustrating. I mean, it's hella frustrating to watch a failed bunt attempt and to give away an out, like you mentioned. So,
well, I guess we'll see what happens with Hicks on the mound tonight. I know a lot of people have basically said we're throwing because we're throwing Hicks tonight. I mean,
Cade Austin. Cade Austin,
right? Yeah. I mean, he's one of our worst relievers, but again, one of our worst pitchers should be better than what Charlotte brings to the table. And even though it's a midweek against a lesser opponent, it's still a critical win, in order to be in that top 8 seed discussion, because if we lose tonight, it's a devastating loss for, that kind of discussion for us to be a top 8 national seed. So I think we'll probably win tonight. I hope we do. And then, let's come back and take 2 out of 3 against Tennessee and get the season back on the right track.
Well said, my friend. I think that's very well put. Very well put indeed. So it starts tonight. Huge week at Founders Park. Dalton, I appreciate the call as always, my friend. It's great to hear from you.
You have a good one.
Yeah, man. You too. Appreciate it. Dalton calling in, one of my favorite callers. I love all of our callers, but great call there from Dalton. Always well said. And, looking forward. It starts tonight, man. Cade Austin on the bump, getting the offense going. Guys, Gamecocks pick up a commitment officially from transfer offensive guard from Mercer, Nee Mansell. Nee Mansell, 6'3", 270 pounds. Again, he comes over from Mercer. He prepped at Westside in Anderson. Let's look up Nee Mansell. Let me see. It's looking like his recruit. Did he have? I don't know if he had like a recruiting profile or anything of the sort. Anyways, played at Mercer. I don't even see like him on a roster anywhere. Let's see. Not seeing anything. I don't know. Does Mercer not look? Let's see. Mercer football roster. They even put their roster. Here we go. 2022 football roster. Here we go. I'm not seeing him on the roster. I don't know. I could be totally wrong here. I don't know. Either way, Mercer offensive guard. Mercer offensive guard coming over. Hey, let's jump back to the phone lines here.
Call from
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic on my birthday eve. How are you doing on
Well,
this
happy
Tuesday?
birthday eve, Robbie Davis. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. What's going on?
I don't have a prediction for the weekend quite yet. I'm pretty sure I'll have it ready for you tomorrow. And for some reason, my phone's acting up because one minute I got bars, another minute I don't have bars. So I tried to call in earlier, but I didn't realize I didn't have any bars. But I don't know what's going on with my phone. Anyways, I definitely think I definitely could see us getting the W tonight for sure. You still there?
I'm still here, my friend.
Okay. I definitely could see us getting the W tonight for sure. I'm tempted to pick us to win. I got 2 scores, either 7-3 or 6-3, and I'm leaning more towards 6-3 than I am 7-3, totally based off of how horrible our infielding has been. Our infield play has been over the last couple of weeks. So I think I'm going to go with 6-3 South Carolina, and I got us winning 2 out of 3 this weekend. For right now, at least, I got us taking 2 out of 3 this weekend. It might change between now and tomorrow, but for right now, I got us taking 2 out of 3 this weekend.
I love that. 2 out of 3 this weekend. Okay. Very good.
Because at some point, you got to get off the schneid, and what better time to do it than the week before the conference tournament?
I agree, man. Hey, it's time for the Yardcocks to get hot. It's time for the Yardcocks to get hot for sure, man. Got to do it now. At home especially.
Absolutely, for sure. And to echo what you said earlier in the show, right? I absolutely agree with you that Lenoris Sellers is going to be our future starter next season. Okay. I would be like you, for lack of a better word, dumbfounded, okay, if Lenoris Sellers does not wind up becoming our starting QB next season. Because everyone else, I'm like, who actually could do something with this offense? And the only person I see outside of Rattler is Lenoris Sellers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Lenoris Sellers is your quarterback of the future. When you just look at the skill set, maybe it's a spring game of reaction, but I feel confident that that he's the guy. So we shall see. We shall see. But,
either way, though, the talent is definitely there. Even though it was in a spring game, he definitely showed that he's got SEC caliber talent with his arm and his feet.
Indeed. No,
but
for sure.
Still got
he showed you those flashes. He showed you those glimpses, no doubt, man. So I'm excited for Lenoris Sellers. Truly, I'm excited for it.
So, but I'm the closer we get, like I said last year, the closer we get, the more excited I get, and I'm just ready for September to get here, man.
Robbie says, "To hell with the rest of baseball season. Get me to September."
But and I actually watched some of the Tar Heels spring game last night on my ESPN app on my phone a little bit, and of course I didn't take much from it because I didn't watch a lot of it. I was like, I don't care, we're gonna beat y'all's asses anyways. I don't give a damn. We're gonna beat that Tar Heel butt, and I'm gonna talk trash to my cousin. Because he's been talking trash and we ain't even played the game yet. And I'm like, we ain't played the game yet and you're already talking trash and you're saying he's going to win the Heisman? Bro, we still got to get to football season.
Robbie, are you going to Beamer's welcome home event tomorrow?
That was the plan, but it is sold out.
Oh, my.
Which kind of sucks because I really wanted to go.
Really? It's that hot of a ticket.
I really wanted to go too.
I'm surprised Dave Garrett didn't hook you up. I'm surprised Dave Garrett couldn't hook you up.
I haven't heard from him, so I assumed he wasn't able to get the tickets. But it's all right. There's always next time. Well, I think next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the tickets like as soon as they go on sale. The second I see what day they go on sale, especially if it's around my birthday next year, I'm going. Come Hades or high water, by hook or by crook, I will do my damnedest to go.
By hook or by crook, you heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first.
But I will definitely have my weekend predictions for you on Thursday. And just in case Big Dick Dale is curious, I had pizza for lunch from Little Caesars. And in case he's also wondering, I took 13,374 steps yesterday. So I got my workout in.
Oh man, I love that. I hope Big Dick Dale is listening, Robbie. I hope Big Dick Dale's tuned in.
But
I really do.
I'm probably not going to walk today because my legs were hurting like hang whenever I got home. So I'm most likely not walking today.
Everybody needs a day off every now and then, my guy.
Oh, that's a fact. That is a fact. That is a fact. All right, buddy. I will talk to you tomorrow. Go Gamecocks, and to hell with Clemson, and just to hell with the ACC in general. To hell with them.
To hell
They're
with them.
going kaput.
To hell with them. Robbie Davis, appreciate you, my
buddy.
man. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
And you'll definitely hear from me tomorrow for sure.
I know I will, Robbie. I always look forward to it. I appreciate you, man.
You too, buddy. Stay safe and leave the dumb stuff to me as always.
Will do. Take care, Robbie. Appreciate you. Great stuff from Robbie Davis. The fact that Robbie just said Big Dick Dale out loud made me just die laughing. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump into another break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you, more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on a Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie Ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023. In case you missed it, guys, Gamecocks pick up a commitment today. Gamecocks pick up a commitment from Mercer, offensive line transfer, Nee Mansell. Nee Mansell commits to the Gamecocks. Let's see. Yeah. 6'3", 270, I think they said he is. Something like that. Yeah, 6'3", 270. So. Brandon says, Chris, where do things stand now for Logan Diggs, in your opinion? If he wants to be RB1, he picks South Carolina. If he wants to return home and play for his former coach, he picks LSU. I mean, yeah, based off things, Brandon, that I've heard and talking to JC Sherbert, I think Logan Diggs, it's more likely he ends up at LSU than anything. I'm expecting him, if you want my honest opinion, it would be huge to get Diggs, but it sounds like LSU is going to be the spot. Yeah, Brandon, the kid from Mercer is a preferred walk-on. Yes, you are correct. Preferred walk-on from Mercer. Chase Floyd says, we really need a young Savage call right now. And John Edward, nobody was saying your name is Young Savage. I don't know why you took that personally. John Edward, you got to stop taking things personally, my guy. You got to stop taking things personally. Brew Nation says he's a small O lineman. Maybe he can run the ball. I hear you. I saw Madison asking in the chat, by the way, a little bit earlier in the show, have you decided if you're going to a game this weekend? If I go, it'll be Thursday night. I'm not fully decided, guys. Friday night, I'm busy. Saturday, I'm out of town. So we are, neither of those days. So tonight, going to a little celebration dinner. So not going to be tonight either. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know. Maybe this will just be the year where I don't go to a single game at Founders Park. So, I mean, I don't really mind that, but I don't know. How about this? Our friends over at 11.7 have dropped their field of 64 projections. They've got the Gamecocks as the 12 seed. And in the regional, Boston College as the 2 seed. That'd be a damn good 2 seed. Troy as the 3 seed and Mercer as the 4 seed. Guys, Troy, of course, their head coach, Skylar Meade, former Gamecocks pitching coach. So what a storyline that would be if Skylar Meade were to return home to take on the Gamecocks and Mark Kingston. What a storyline that would be. Let's see. Again, guys, taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Tuesday. Wide open. This is your hour, our Q&A Power Hour. And I tell you guys this, I know we're only in a day 2 of it, but personally, I love this new format of the show. I love it. I love the fact that expanding an hour has also brought much more organization. It's brought much more order in place, which I think has been really, really good. Again, I'd love to. I always value you guys' feedback. But I think the show is much more, going into it, we'd always go into it just kind of wide open. You guys control the conversation. But I think what would happen at times is, we don't always get, we're not just start to finish endless calls, right? We don't get endless calls start to finish. So I feel like at times the show kind of suffered. The quality a bit suffered, if you will, because I didn't have anything really planned to talk about. And so now I think the changes that we've implemented, the changes we've made has absolutely increased the value that we're producing in the content in this show. So again, I value you guys' thoughts and opinions, and love to hear feedback, but I'm thrilled. I love it from my end personally. I love that we've got, hour number 1 is this, hour number 2 is our guest, hour number 3 is all of you guys. I love the way what it means for the podcast, what it means for content, the way that we're distributing content. I think it's a great thing. So Will Hall says, fun fact, the 2 years we won the whole thing, the only games I went to all year were the opening day game and the first game of the regionals in Cole both seasons. How about that, Will? How about that? I don't know yet, though. I may be at a game this week, and I have not fully decided. So it'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise. How about that? It will be a surprise. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Again, Gamecocks picking up a transfer from Mercer, offensive guard Nee Mansell, 6'3", 270 pounds. Yeah, guys, what does it mean for the running back room if you don't get Diggs? Obviously, Kentucky picking up Demi Sumo from NC State. You trust that Beamer. You trust that Beamer's going to get somebody. And I'm not trying to doubt the carry-on Joyner, as Brendan M. has insinuated in the Big Cock Club Discord. But, as I mentioned, and you heard J.C. Sherbert talk about it, right? The sense of urgency around the running back position. You heard him talk about it. I don't worry they'll get somebody. But what type of productivity are you going to get from that room? Madison, yes, a like on YouTube absolutely helps the YouTube page. For sure. It absolutely, Madison, helps. Thank you. It absolutely helps. No doubt. Anything like that helps, man. Anything like that helps. Yes. The thumbs up on YouTube helps. And guys, if you're tuned in right now and you're not, make sure you subscribe to the Spurs Up Show on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell icon for the notification icon as well, so you get notifications when we go live, when we drop new video content. And, of course, subscribe to the Spurs Up Show podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast. This entire show, our Rowdy Rooster Rundown, all of that is distributed on those channels. So make sure you head over there, you subscribe to the Spurs Up Show. Again, guys, I appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, the love, the support, man, we feel on the merchandise side of the business, the podcast. It's funny, I was about to say the podcast, the live show, it's all in the same thing. Just all-encompassing. The love and support we feel, man, it's absolutely incredible. So, Brandon said maybe the freshman Dontavius Braswell can make a big splash this fall. That might have to be it. That might have to be it, man, if you don't pick up anybody else. So, maybe Mario Anderson's that dude. Maybe the carry-on Joyner's really that dude. But as we mentioned, just from a pure competitive depth standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense to go get someone. I think it makes a lot of sense. What in the world is a dugout club meeting? Gamecock baseball talking about Saturday's dugout club meeting. Brunch and get together with other Gamecock baseball fans. AD Ray Tanner will introduce our guest speaker, Bobby Richardson. $30. Huh. Okay. That's interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Let's see. Getting back into your questions, Madison, got to run. My ride to the game is here, and we got to go see the Gamecocks play. Hey, Madison, y'all have a good time. Y'all have a good time. Cody Gaskins has the Minnesota running back committed anywhere. I'm not sure, Cody, to be totally honest with you. I'm not 110% sure, my friend. That's one I'd have to check on. That is one indeed I would have to check on. Let's see. What is his name? I don't even recall. I don't even know his name. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, 843-790-3370. Let me go back through these questions, by the way. Sorry about that. Let me go back. We had, let's see. Brian Dean, can Dakereon Joyner be 1,000-yard running back for Carolina this year? Brian, I'm going to go with no. And that's not really even a knock on Dakereon Joyner. We're going to pass the ball too much. And I don't know that our offensive line is capable of paving the way for a 1,000-yard rusher. just to be totally transparent, I don't think we've got that type of offensive line. I don't see it. I don't see it. So, let's see. Ethan says, back to the Heisman conversation. If a Pac-12 quarterback can win it in this era, then it should be a wide open competition. Win big games and have big stats. And it's his. I think Hooker would have had it if he hadn't gotten hurt. I think that's fair. Yeah, Hendon Hooker was very, very good last year. Very good. It's a shame he didn't get invited to New York, honestly. It is a shame. Death, taxes, and Panic Ritter panicking. Let's see. Hayden says, I see a running back and he's already committed to Penn State. Yeah, I agree with you, Hayden. Them inviting Stetson Bennett over Hendon Hooker was insane. So, insane indeed. Anybody got a winner for the PGA Championship? Again, we're in our Q&A power hour. Anybody got a winner for the PGA Championship? That starts this weekend, Thursday. John Edward says, love what you do, Chris. John Edward, I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. And guys, in case there was a misunderstanding, or just in case you did not know, with the way we are now doing things, there will not be a podcast that drops at 5 a.m. on Thursday, right? We're basically going away from that. We're going away from, hey, Monday, Thursday, the podcast drops, and here's TDC. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the podcast drops, here's TDC. We're going away from that. This live show, these live shows we do, this is the content, right? So you get your Rowdy Rooster rundown on Sunday nights, recapping everything that happened over the weekend. That, of course, drops via podcast form at 5 a.m. Monday. Everything else, though, is going to be, like, for example, Thursday, we'll do the full series preview, series breakdown, prediction of Tennessee. The podcast version of all of that will drop Thursday afternoon, right? So it just makes the most sense, guys. It does. It makes the most sense. I think the numbers for us are going to reflect that, to be honest with you. And like I mentioned, the content much more consumable, much more enjoyable for all of you out there. Guys, let's jump into one final break. On the side, I want to continue to hear from you as we close out here on this Tuesday. More of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Final 15 minutes or so in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Brian Dean says, how do y'all feel like Clem sucks in the SEC? Again, Brian, I welcome it. Come on, bring it on. Let's go. I would love, we've said forever, how would they do with an SEC schedule? I mean, let's find out. Why not? Why not? Ethan says, I still strongly believe that Dabo will go to Alabama, to his alma mater, once Saban goes. Do you agree or disagree? I think Dabo's a lifer in the upstate. I do. I feel like he's built his own version of Alabama. You never know. You never know, Ethan. It would surprise me, though, if he went. Because I'll tell you this. The pressure on the next coach at Alabama will be unlike anything we have ever seen. I mean, it'll be unlike anything we've ever seen, right? Four-star athlete Aaron Butler has committed to Colorado. 2024 four-star athlete. LSU's added to his 2024 class. In-state four-star athlete Jawan Johnson. How about that? Again, guys, phone lines are wide open for you. Brennan M. says it's going to be Kiffin at Bama once Saban leaves. Wouldn't that be something? My goodness. That would be a very different coach for Alabama, right? I mean, I feel like Bama prides themselves on this hard nose, this hard nose, whatever. He would be a much, much different type of coach for them. So we'll say that. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for the continued love and support. Speaking again on this Nee Mansell kid who committed, preferred walk-on offensive lineman, 6'3", 305 is what they say on 24/7. Played at Westside High School in Anderson, South Carolina. He entered the portal last November with 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. North Greenville, Valdosta State, Lamar, Mississippi Valley State, Tennessee State, Eastern Kentucky, and Alabama State offered Marshall after he entered the portal. So, for whatever reason, Mercer did not have his 2022 stats, though. 2021, he played in 9 games, primarily at the guard position. He played in 11 games at guard in 2020. Or actually, they played a spring season. But anyways, he's played 20 games over those 2 seasons. Who knows what he did last year? Who knows what he did last year? I don't know. So, Brian Dean, Cody Gaskins on the mound tonight. Cody Gaskins. Look at me. I'm losing it. Cade Austin. See, I think of Cody Gaskins and Cade Austin. One and the same. Sorry about it, Cody Gaskins. You've done that to yourself. Cody Gaskins on the mound. Cody Gaskins is in the Big Cock Club. That's my bad. Cade Austin. Cody Gaskins' favorite player, Cade Austin, is on the bump tonight. That was hilarious. I literally just didn't even think about it. Standing on business. Cody Gaskins getting the start tonight. Cade Gaskins. That's it. That's it. Let's see. Brian Dean said, I know running back is a need, but I feel good about who we have. Mario Anderson and DeCarrion Joyner. We'll see, Brian. We'll see. We shall see. Anyways, guys, let's see. Bruin Nation says, Mark just tweeted something interesting. Hey, Mark, Bruin Nation, how does it feel to not be blocked by Mark anymore? Congratulations on that, my guy. I think Mark went through and unblocked everyone. I don't know. Maybe I inspired it because I told him I literally unblocked everybody. Yeah, I mean, I see the tweet that Mark put up about the tweet that he had August of 2021 that he got ripped for. He got destroyed for that tweet back in 2021. He got killed. Brian Dean mentioning Nick Harbor at the running back position. That'd be interesting. I'm sure there are worse options, but is he going to be ready to start as your starting running back as a true freshman? I doubt it. And he's also not a running back. He's a wide receiver, and Beamer's already said they want to play him on the outside. So I think based off of what Beamer said, that's where he will be. So, guys, if you missed anything, be sure you are subscribed to the Spurs Up Show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts as well. All the content for today's show will be up there 5 o'clock Eastern time. And I'll continue to ask because I value your feedback, you guys' thoughts on everything we do, right? Everything we do, because certainly we would not be where we are or where we're going without your love and support. Yeah, guys, 109 days until kickoff. The countdown will officially start next Thursday. 100 days until kickoff. 100 days. That'll be fun. And also, we've got, the SEC tournament. I mean, a lot of stuff going down. A lot of stuff going down, man. Bruin Nation, North Augusta just won the 4A state championship in golf. How about that? Shout out to NA, the NA golf team. Love that, man. Love that. Love to hear it, Bruin Nation. Thank you for informing me. Jeff Gullich says 10 days until I leave for the Bahamas. Very nice, Jeff. Very nice. I had a lot of fun in April and March, like all throughout this year thus far. I mean, we've traveled a good bit, right? We hit the road for the TSUS tour. We went on a cruise. We went to Hilton Head. What else, man? I feel like we've just been all over the place. It's been a lot of fun, but after the cruise, I came back and was like, I'm good just kind of chilling in the studio for a while. You know what I mean? We got some big life events upcoming. So I don't know. I kind of wanted to lock in the studio and yeah. Chase Floyd just get a girl and you went places. I mean, maybe there's some of that, Chase. I mean, also too, the reason I was able to go places because of you guys. Again, the love and the support and the success we had in 2022 and the success the business had. And, you're just able to go do more things, right? And I like to get out and about and travel for sure. But, I also love the daily grind. I love our daily routine. It's a it's a balance having balance. You know what I mean? Which might sound kind of weird, but it's a balance having balance. You know? So I love the flexibility. I genuinely do, guys, man. I love the fact that we've gotten to this point in content and stuff like that where, again, it's like I've told you guys. I mean, I love being at games, and I mean, I feel like I know for a fact I don't even have to. There's a reason I don't entertain the foolishness, but anybody who tries to tell you that TSUS or C Philly is not welcome in Columbia or banned from Columbia or this, that, banned from the stadium or the park, it's complete nonsense, because I can assure you if that was the case, you guys would know, because I'd make a very, very big deal of it. But, the ability just to get out and about, man, and change things up and, be more flexible and more efficient with time and do different, and it opening the door for me to do different things and do different things with content and add more value to what we're doing. It's been awesome, man. I love it. And the ability to travel and get out and about. But I also just love the daily grind, man. Being in the studio, chopping it up, having the setup, if you will, man. I love that. So I love that. I mean, obviously we'll continue to travel and do different things, but I do love being in studio, man. It's a great thing. The vibes in here, unprecedented. And so John Eber says 40-ish days to my younger brother's wedding. That'll be awesome, John Eber. Bruin Nation says, my Bruins baseball and softball team is playing for lower state championship starting today. Tomorrow, South versus West Florence in softball, and in baseball, South Florence against North Myrtle Beach. Very nice, Bruin Nation. Very nice. Very nice. That's awesome, man. High school sports. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Big things happening in the Flowtown. Big things happening in the Flowtown. Will Hall says, North Myrtle Beach, let's go. My alma mater. We're going to have some people throwing fighting words because of the high schools and stuff like that. Let's see. It sounds like, so per Brendan M., next week sometime we will hear the kickoff times for the first couple of games. It's that time of year. This is generally when that happens. You already saw today a couple of games on the ESPN family of networks. Those games have been announced. So that's going to be exciting, man. And I forgot to ask JC Sherbert, by the way, my apologies, but I saw something they were talking about this morning on their show that it sounds like there is momentum for South Carolina, North Carolina to be a night game in Charlotte, which would be electric. I mean, it would make a lot of sense. That's a great game. That's one of the better games, I think, of week one. I really do. Would make a lot of sense. I would imagine UNC will be a night game. Furman, probably a noon kickoff. And Georgia, probably the afternoon slot, something like that. Would not be surprised at the night game just because Georgia's Georgia. So would not be surprised at all. But, exciting stuff, man. And also, by the way, 1 week from today, preseason magazine season officially kicks in, because 1 week from today, Athlon hits the newsstands. Excited to go get the magazine, guys. I still love getting the physical copies of the magazines. Of course, we'll have our guy Pick Six Previews, Brett Ciancia. He'll join us later in the preseason. For what it's worth, I think the best preseason magazine out there. Love the job that Brett Ciancia does. But excited for preseason magazine season, of course, as football gets closer. And also, we'll be in the midst of the SEC tournament, all that good stuff. A lot of fun for sure. Guys, that's going to do it. We've hit 3 o'clock. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in. Stay tuned to all the content, of course, bleeding out the eyeballs. Guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Y'all take care. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Gamecocks beat Charlotte, and we will talk to you all